Why doesn't Canelo Alvarez want to fight Jamall Charlo? Blessed love and blessed day, boxing world, boxing nation, fighting world, fighting nation. It's Coach Fight and this is real life boxing. Why doesn't Canelo Alvarez want to fight Jamall Charlo? This is part 1 of a 2 to 3 part series. Hey, before we get into it, I'm gonna ask you guys to smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified when new content is being uploaded, and you can be notified when we are going live. Now, why doesn't Canelo Alvarez want to fight Jamall Charlo? Let's talk about it. And I want to start this video by saying this is not why is Canelo Alvarez ducking Jamall Charlo. This is not me saying that Canelo Alvarez is ducking Jamall Charlo. For all the Canelo Alvarez fans, I'm a fan of Canelo Alvarez too. The question is, why doesn't Canelo Alvarez want to fight Jamall Charlo? Now, this is a fact that Canelo Alvarez does not want to fight Jamall Charlo. He didn't want to fight him at 154. Well, he didn't fight him at 154, and he's not looking like he wants to fight him at 160. And we want to figure out why is he not trying to fight Jamall Charlo. Now, we're going to do an assessment of both fighters, Jamall Charlo and Canelo Alvarez, of their most recent fights and how they've looked. And then we're going to mesh them together and compare the two and see what we come up with. Now, let's start with Jamall Charlo. His last 2 opponents would be Brandon Adams, in which he fought the other night, and it was Hugo Centennial Jr. before that. Hugo Centennial was his mandatory as his WBC, what was he? The interim WBC champion. Hugo Centennial was his mandatory, and he fought Hugo Centennial, knocked him out in devastating fashion, and just fought Steve Rose the other night. And he won a 12-round unanimous decision with Steve Rose. Now, let's talk about Jamall Charlo moving up from 154 to 160. He moved out of the 154 division to look for, he was chasing the big fight with Canelo Alvarez in Triple G. These are facts. Now, I was gonna make a fancy video with fancy edits and put up, you know, like I usually do, but you know, I really wanted to do this video in the studio at the house, but I'd be real tired at nighttime, you know what I mean? Days are long, and I don't want to keep putting it off because then I'll never do it. So I'm like, let me just do it, you know, right now. So no fancy edits. We're just gonna talk and give you guys straight facts. And if you guys want to look up any of this information, you know, I advise you guys to. Don't just listen to me and take what I have to say, you know what I mean? Look it up because these are all facts. Now, Jamall Charlo moved out of 154, pursuing the big fights with Canelo Alvarez and Triple G at 160 because both of those guys were at 160 pounds. Now, let's talk about Brandon Adams, his fight with Brandon Adams the other night, because he's getting a lot of heat from the haters. Saying, well, he couldn't knock out Brandon Adams. He couldn't do this. He couldn't do that to Brandon Adams. Now, Brandon Adams is a pretty good fighter. Not on the level of Jamall Charlo, but still good enough to not get knocked out. You know what I mean? He was real crafty with his defense. He was crafty with his movement. You know, he was slick. Very good head movement, very good waist movement, and moved his feet pretty well. He just wasn't, you know, a great offensive fighter. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't say he gave Jamall Charlo some problems. He was able to take Jamall Charlo's, he had an iron chin. I mean, he was able to take Jamall Charlo's power punches. Even though he was rolling with them, you know, pretty nice, he was able to not get hurt by Jamall Charlo's power punches. Even though he did get hurt a few times, but, you know, still crafty enough to not get finished. Yeah, so Showbiz the Adult did a video the other day comparing how, you know, great fighters of yesteryear weren't able to finish, you know, mid-level opposition. So, you know, this kind of stuff has been happening throughout time. Like, you're just not gonna knock out every fighter that you fight. So with that being said, let's go to the Matt Korobov fight. Now, I made a mistake earlier. His last 3 opponents were Hugo Centennial Jr., Matt Korobov, and then Brandon Adams. So let's go to Matt Korobov, in which Charlo took a lot of heat for this fight because, again, he was not able to finish Matt Korobov. And not only wasn't he able to finish him, a lot of people think that he actually lost that fight. Me, I feel like he won that fight. I feel like he pulled away from Matt Korobov, like the last 4 rounds. You know what I mean? He pulled away. He hurt Korobov a few times, almost stopped him in the 12th round. So I think he did enough to beat Matt Korobov. But the boxing world was extremely critical, and I think this is where the problems came in with Jamall Charlo. Oh, why should Canelo fight him? He can't even beat Korobov. He can't beat Brandon Adams. Now, Korobov was a well-seasoned amateur fighter. A lot of experience, few years older than Jamall. Just one of those fighters with a lot of experience. Not to mention he was coming down from super middleweight. He was coming down from 168, and he was in pretty good shape. You know what I mean? He was in damn good shape, and like I said, southpaw and a very crafty fighter. And Jamall Charlo went the distance with him, and, you know, maybe may not have looked so great. Now, let's go to Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez, last 3 opponents, Triple G, in which he beat, walking down Triple G. A lot of people thought the fight was a draw. A lot of people thought that Triple G won. I feel like he walked Triple G down, you know what I mean, and just put it to Triple G. Fight after that, Rocky Fielding, in which he moved up to 168 pounds, stopped Rocky Fielding with a body shot in the 3rd round, I believe. And his last fight was against Daniel Jacobs, which he beat Daniel Jacobs pretty decisively. And hold on one second, let me drink this coffee. Beat Daniel Jacobs pretty decisively, and was a great showing. Showed great defense, great head movement, you know, things that we hadn't seen from Canelo in the past. So this guy in Canelo Alvarez has definitely been proven that he's getting better. He's still getting better. He's adjusting, you know what I mean, fighting different styles. He's just getting better, you know what I mean. And this we've seen, you know, like Coach Kill said in his video yesterday, believe what you see and not what you hear. And I mean, we've seen this out of our own eyes that Canelo is getting better. So we don't even have to stay on Canelo's last 3 fights for that long. Now, let's mesh them together. We saw Jamall Charlo have problems with a guy that was shorter than him in Brandon Adams, which Canelo was shorter than him. We saw him have problems with the head movement. Now, I can't call it a problem because he still won the fight, but we're gonna mesh in what Canelo does better than Brandon Adams, which can turn out to be a problem. Now, I mentioned that Brandon Adams was slick with his waist, slick at the head, a slick, crafty, you know, defensive fighter. He just wasn't as crafty and as experienced offensively as Jamall Charlo. Now, Canelo Alvarez, a fighter shorter than Jamall Charlo, moves his head pretty well, moves his waist really well, maybe doesn't move his feet as well or as quick as Brandon Adams, but he still has solid footwork, you know what I mean? And he is a devastating counterpuncher. He will counter off of those misses where Brandon Adams wasn't countering off of the misses. Canelo will counter off of the misses, which can serve a problem for Jamall Charlo. Also, Canelo Alvarez is a very good inside fighter. What I mean by inside, in the pocket. He's good in here. He's good with throwing that hook to the body. He's good with his uppercuts. He's good with his short punches. He's even good with his bobbing and weaving and overhand right inside. All right. One thing that I felt was lacking from Jamall Charlo the other night when he fought Brandon Adams was his inside work, because I felt like where this lady's tweaking. I felt like when they were in close quarters and Charlo could have really dug into the body and dug in his uppercuts, he didn't. And neither did Brandon Adams. So I feel like you know, Canelo may have an advantage on the inside against Jamall Charlo. Let's talk about Jamall Charlo's advantages. Well, you can't even call them advantages, because the advantages that I would give Jamall Charlo is that he's bigger than Canelo, he's longer than Canelo. We don't know if he's stronger and if he's faster. He may have, his hands may be a little bit faster, but that's, you know, that still remains to be seen. So his size, maybe just his physical ability, he can have an advantage over Canelo. So now let's get to Canelo again. Still in the mesh. Canelo has fought Cesar Chavez Jr. I think, what they fight at? Super middleweight, and it was like a catch weight at like just a big weight. He's moved up to super middleweight to fight Rocky Fielding, and he is now pursuing a fight at light heavyweight with Kovalev. So he's definitely not scared of size. Definitely not scared to fight guys that are bigger than him. So it just leaves me to ask the question: why doesn't Canelo Alvarez want to fight Jamall Charlo? I don't think that he's scared of Jamall Charlo, and I don't think that Jamall Charlo, me personally, I don't just look at that fight and say, you know, Jamall Charlo beats the hell out of Canelo, or he dominates Canelo. I don't look at that fight and say that. I look at that fight and I say, this can be a very good fight. You really don't know who's gonna win, and that's why we want to see it. We're gonna go deeper into this subject. This was part one, where I just wanted to compare their physical attributes and boxing skills, you know, to each other, to figure out why Canelo Alvarez wouldn't want to fight this guy. Because when it comes to boxing skills, attributes, experience, I would still say that Canelo was probably edging Jamall Charlo out. You know what I mean? So why doesn't he want to fight Jamall Charlo? I'm not one to think that he's scared of Jamall Charlo, and I mean, just like Shoba says, perception turns into reality. It's definitely a fact that he doesn't want to fight him. We want to know the reason why. Protect yourself at all times. This is Coach Fire. This is Real Life Boxing. So if you like this video and you would like to see more great content like this on the channel, go to the PayPal link or the Cash App link in the description and show your appreciation by donating any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the support. This is Real Life Boxing.